Hey guys, all right, we'll finish up here with a look at Netflix per the polling that we did this morning. Now, this is not as clear as the S&P. Now, of course, you anticipate it's gonna move in sympathy with the broader market, and you can see that that's what we've done here. But the count from the low isn't as clear. So one thing, I'm on a weekly chart here. So when you've had this kind of parabolic, you guys wouldn't know that I'd suggest you go to log scale so you can see that wave separation a little better as we compress up here. How do you count that any other way? Well, it's awfully solid. Now the question is, are we done here? So much like the S&P, it looks like a major pivot was put in there. Here it doesn't look quite so good. So let's consider that. So as I take that out of log here. So it's if that's the 4 and we're putting up the extension in the 5, well, it looks like you can go 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'm pulling from this pivot here through the high, and look what we just did, right? So we just ticked the 50. So it's very tempting to think 4's in, ABC is down. So how are we going to know? Well, of course, if we're going to get that, right? If that's the 1 and the 2 and then the 3, 4, and 5, that's a bit crazy on the scale. Okay, so if the ABC is in and you can get the subdivision here to work here, so you'd be anticipating the 1, 2 if the correction is done. Well, let's go down to the daily here and look at that. So you can see everything it tees up just beautifully. So, but you can't eliminate, just like the S&P, the possibility that this is just a WX. So how do you know? Well, you're not going to know. Let's scrunch up here a little bit. So you know I'm pulling from that pivot. Here's where I've got the subdivision here. You see, it looks like you've got a double top here. So you've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4 into a failed 5, which I don't love. But I don't see another way to get that subdivision to play. So from the pivot here, 1, 2, I don't love that. So let's just look here for if that's the 2 here, or we have a little if it's one or the other. Let's look if we get A, so we'd have to have A, B, C. A, B, C. It's not great here. Let's look now. So let's go back one. So maybe it's here, and that's just part of our. So it looks actually a little bit better here. So here's the 23 algo target. 2 to the, is that 2? Yeah, it just doesn't work. Right? So it has to be 1, 2. Well, it has to be more likely 3, 4, 5 goes. So if we're retracing the whole thing, right, as I just showed you, if the 2 is correctly identified, then that's a good candidate for the 4. So we'd be anticipating the 1, 2. Well, there's no way to confirm that until we see what happens here, right, on the first test down here. Now, that could be underway here. Now, we've got earnings. We're through earnings. We don't have earnings now till April. Boy, so is there a trade there? Well, so here, you could certainly make the play. You could certainly make this play, looking for the 3rd. Now, if the broader market is really dumping, that's this likely not to hold right now. Right, you can't necessarily. It's just the sentiment across the market will have people selling stock, not buying stock. So you can't. You've got to look at it on the merits of its own chart. But we got to recognize that that's in the background. But so this certainly there's a reasonable case to be made here that it's 3, 4, and we're just now doing the 1, 2 before we go up to finish the 5. This subdivision doesn't really give you any more of a tell than that. So even if you put if you went, can we do it? Even if you put the larger 1 here, it doesn't improve the case. It doesn't make it any better. So let's just reconsider. If this were 1, so always question. You got to question what you've got, right? So is there another way I could be looking at this? So it doesn't look. So you'd have to go. God damn, can I get that in there? So if this were the 1. 2, yep, you can. So you could go 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's see that. That could work. So you could have 3, 4, 5. So this could be 1, 2. So let's think about that. Does that change us at all? So this we already know. So if this is the 2 and that's the 3, now it looks a little, it doesn't play quite as well because that's deep for a 4. Now that was right when the market was tanking, and there's something here because you can see the reaction at the 50. And oh, we had a gap here. Do you see that? You're looking there going, why do we, so it looks like they were at least attempting to fill the gap there. So I may explain that here, but this reaction here at the 50 tells me, well, it's not hard that there's the dominant, and that's the lowest low before the swing, so that it's not surprising that we get an algo response here. So could this be, well, it's hard to, so it's either WXY going in, and that would be more bearish. So if this is going to play, regardless of where we get this, right? So if the 2 is back here, right, which was the first one, so this is a better play. If you're a bull, you want the 4 to be here rather than beyond the 50. The odds of it getting up to a new high here are reduced. So the initial count, I think, plays better for bulls here, that you've got your 4 in at the 50. Beyond that, it looks less promising. So you're now playing for the 1, 2. So you can take that off. So you've got to make a commitment here. So you lean into the idea that the 4 is in. So if you stick with that, then the 1, 2 is exactly what you're looking for. So let me just open this up a little bit. I'll do it that way. So if that's 1, 2, well, it's pretty much a straight shot up. I don't even know if we have any decent subdivision here. So this would not be unreasonable here. Now, is there anything here? You got a little structure maybe right there. Maybe we can play off of some of this. Maybe something like that. I can get a 1, 2. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So it's a diagonal that finishes the C if that's done. So 1, 2 right in this sweet spot is not an unreasonable spot to be looking for that. 1, 2. I don't know if there's any subdivision here really that's, I mean, it's just a straight rip up. 1, 2. So you got to go 1, 2, A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C down. So that's a solid low here. So I think that's very tradable here. Right, not everybody thinks the market is going to dump right down to those. If you saw the earlier video, that would mean a full 50% retracement. It means the market's got a long way to fall. Well, that would likely invalidate this count because the sentiment across the market will likely drag this down with it. So what else is here? So you gotta look for more signs of any confluence that you can find. So this, we stay in, right? So that's why you want to keep these here. So we're hovering around. We're not tagging the median line, just the way you'd like to see it. Yeah, let's see if there's anything else here we might look at that we're missing. I don't see much here. What else could there be here? I don't see it. So what you're about to have, if this is going to come down, you're going to have a setup here for something. Now, we don't know if it's going to be 50 or when it comes. But if we're going to go down low, we're going to come down hard here and get into this potential area here. So you got to pay attention to this one as well. That could come into play here is if there's a front run on the 50. So note here, right? So it's funny how those line up. So look how this pivot, see the low volume node here, right? So the market rejects that price. So down it goes and it blows right through. So we do not have market acceptance here. So if we're going to come down here and do a 2-3, that's a strong contender here to be looking for it. So you got to front run that just slightly, or let it hit that. If it's going to hit this area, look for the reaction. Now I'm on a 4-hour. You could wait for, as I will often suggest, you can wait for the little 1, 2. Or if you want to be a buyer here with a stop under the 65, maybe you're going for a split entry. So you're trying to get the spread between there and there. So if it comes down in here, maybe an initial position here on the front run, anticipating some some support here at prior resistance. So maybe a first bite is here, second bite off of that pivot that we identified here. So you end up with a split fill. So you'd be averaged in somewhere around here, stop under the 65. So you're not taking on a lot of risk because of what's happening in the broader market. If we're going to start to come down, no reason to hold that beyond the 65. You want the clean. So we can barely get an ABC out of that. But if you get that, you don't want to hold for that because the market dumping. Well, of course, we gotta watch the broader market. But if that starts to dump, right, then the probability of that happening gets reduced. Then we challenge this low, and then the whole thing starts to break down. So of course, you're going to have I guess we could work it this way. These look, maybe we play it like this. Is this better fit? 3 pivots, all you need for a channel there. So look, so you can do it that way, or you can do it this way. Right, so where are we going to hit? Now that the median lines, if we go to modified, right, so we'll have the same thing. So this is not a bad area to be looking right in here. Right, so if it doesn't just come down and reject at the low volume, this is the reasonable area to be looking for fills between the 50 and the 618. So that's got jumpy. So that's what I see, guys. I'd wait for that. Let it come to you. Right, rather than chase something here, as we sit here now, we're a point of control. I'd let that come down. Why chase it? Right, let it come to you, and then I'd be disciplined on the stop. Right, we all love Netflix, right? Right? Game of Thrones is coming, right? There's gonna be plenty of viewing, right? So, but that's you can't trade off of that. Oh, I love that show. You can't buy Netflix off of that. So anyway, I'd be looking in here, but I would not ride it beyond the 65. All right, guys, that's all I got for that. See you later.